Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. In this video, we're going to put a new tail light panel in this Budget Build 69 Nova. Now I know originally I was not going to replace the tail light panel, I was going to patch the one that was there. But once I started looking at it, it was way worse and it was going to be really difficult. I tried to make a few patch panels just as a test to see if I was going to be able to make the whole thing. And even if I cut it in half and made two pieces, the break I've got, I was not going to be able to do it, and it was just going to take a ton of time. The main reason I was trying to patch it anyway was because I couldn't find one. Nobody had one. Well, my buddy had one on his car that he was trying to test fit a long time ago, and it's been sitting for a while. He doesn't need it right now, so I bought it. I'm going to buy him a new one, or I got it. I'm going to buy him a new one, and I'm going to take that out of my budget on this car. Okay, so here's what we have to do. I got to remove the bumper, and I got to remove the tail lights. Hopefully I'm not going to have to do too much rust on the bolts and stuff that holds that on, because I really don't like dealing with all that crap. But the biggest problem is going to be a lot of times on these old tail light assemblies, what'll happen is the stud that's pressed into the tail light, it's not a very tight fit because there's not much meat there for it to grab to. What'll happen is if the stud is rusty, it'll just spin on the inside and you can't get it out. So I'm hoping I don't have to deal with that. We're gonna see. Right. Okay, so the way you want to tackle this is you want to get all the big stuff out of the way so it makes getting to all the little finicky parts easier to get to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to cut right across here and avoid the trunk gutter. So I'll probably cut from right here over to here where my quarter panel stops, and cut down across there, and then I'll cut across the bottom and then do the same cuts over here and get the big piece out of the way, and then I can go back and work on cutting my small pieces out where everything's easier to get to. All right, if you got a lot of sheet metal you got to cut out of the way, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a straight line, best thing to use is an air hammer with a cutting bit on it. I'm gonna cut all the way across here. I'm gonna try to cut from here down. Some of this stuff, if it's real thin, air hammer will just fold it over, but it usually cuts pretty good. And then I come back and clean all my small pieces up, grind all my spot welds out of the way, drill them, whatever I need to do. But this ought to make pretty quick work of it, be a lot faster and easier than getting a Ziz wheel in here. Okay, so that took about 5 minutes. And I'm gonna need about 8 tetanus shots, but here, no turning back now. Okay, so the bad part is this thing has a lot of teeth now, so you have to be really careful and wear gloves like I am. Now, some of this is rusted pretty good, so it should peel up pretty easy all the way across to here. And then once you get to here, the rest of it is pretty solid. I'm gonna try to hit some up with the air chisel and peel it up with that, but there's a good chance I'll damage the trunk pan. I don't want to do that, so I'll have to be pretty careful. Like I said, that piece right there is pretty loose. It ought to come up pretty easy, but once you get over here, it's pretty solid. I mean, there's a little rust through right there, but the rest of it, like I said, was pretty solid. So I'm going to try to clean that up, and then I'm going to try to get this right here, this section right here. Back the camera up a little bit. Most of this is rusted, so I'll try to get this section right here. I'm going to cut right down here, and then all I'll have is that lip that is underneath this to clean up and deal with there. The lip that's under here, and then this is pretty much trashed anyway, so not too big of a deal. And then I'll do the same thing over here, although this is in much better shape on the gutter support. So I'll cut it right on the outside of it, right down here, across there, and then try to deal with what's underneath. Same thing around the edge right here where the tail lights go. Okay, so I got most of this out. There's a little piece here I'm gonna have to grind the welds on. From here to here is gone. There's a little piece here, and then it starts over here, and it's pretty sturdy right through here. I got this part right here left over. This is part of the quarter, and the quarter just comes straight down here, so that might be a little messed up there, but it's not a big deal. I've still got a little bit on the inside right here, you can tell. That's got to come out. This on the back side of this, not a lot, and then a little bit up here in the back of this. Now, right here, your options are to grind the spot welds out with a spot weld cutter, or drill them out with a spot weld cutter, or grind them. Now, the biggest trick, or the hardest part, is finding all the spot welds. So what I did was I went to the back of it and pried up on it, and basically it let me see where all my spot welds were. If the metal's not real rusty, you can hit it with a wire brush wheel or a grinder and clean it up really good, and you can see all the little tack areas. But when the metal's rusty like this, it doesn't show the spot welds quite as well. So anyway, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to hit all these, get those out of the way, pull this up, clean this whole area up, and then I'm going to start working on these inside pieces right here. Okay, so I ended up using my air chisel anyway, and I did scar up the trunk pan a little bit right here, not bad. I've still got some big pieces that are stuck that I'll have to grind down, but those should be fairly easy. I've got a little bit of stuff here. I did pull a hole through right here, and then I cut through somewhere over here. Let's see, that was that one, and somewhere else I thought I gouged a hole through. Maybe that was it. Anyway, I came real close right here and right here, but for the most part that worked out really well. I've just got some big pieces to, right here's where I went through. So right here and right here I went through with the chisel, because it's hard to control that thing. That thing takes out metal really fast, and it's easy to grab 2 or 3 pieces of metal at once and wad them up and tear a hole, which is what I did there. Oh, another one here. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, not too bad still. I don't want to be fixing a lot more metal, and like I said, this piece, for as rusty as the rest of the car is, I can't believe the taillight panel was as good as it was, to be honest with you. Alright, so it's the next morning. It got a little late last night. I couldn't make any more noise. I did work a little bit and got most of the small pieces off. Most of this is up. Most of that is off. I got that piece off. I did put a hole in it, but that's no big deal. This side, other than pieces I need to grind off, everything is gone except for this one flange right here that's behind the quarter panel, and then whatever's left from here to here. And there is some brass right here, and there's lead right here on both sides. So I'm going to have to melt that out or grind it. probably melt it out, and then I'll be able to get that piece off. I've got to figure out how I'm going to cut this piece from behind here. I'll probably get in there with my cutoff wheel if I can get it in there and kind of cut back and get that piece out and get most of this out. Once I get that done, I can clean up all this right here, get all the metal cleaned up the best I can, and then hopefully I can get the taillight panel to slide in without taking out my gutter supports. So here's where we're at. I got all my edges cleaned up, all my old spot welds ground down. Not too bad. Now the problem is these are in the way, and I kind of thought they would be, but I wasn't sure until I got my panel, which is laying right here. It is an AMD panel, but that panel is supposed to be under here, on top of this, and behind here. And I thought maybe I could get it up under here and trim the edge right here to get it to fit, and just tack it in right there. And whatever part was supposed to be on top of this I wouldn't worry about, but can't do that, so it's not going to fit under there with these in the way at all. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these loose right here the best I can, fold them forward, kind of just bend them a little bit, get my taillight panel in there, and then bring them back up. Okay, so I got the trunk gutter supports cut, and they are now loose, and I took all the rest of the quarter panel that was on top of them out of the way so my taillight panel could sit up on it. Even though I went up too far, that's how far they went, so that's how far I cut. So I should be able to bend these forward just a little bit. And now I should be able to get my taillight panel to set in there. Now I'm just test fitting it. I'm still going to have to get it. Okay, so here's the rough fit. This has got to come back a little bit. I've got to adjust this a little bit so that my panel will sit in a little better, sit in a little deeper here. I need to adjust the bottom a hair, not much. Across here fits pretty good. Right here, pretty much the same thing as the other side. Once I pull back on it and get all that adjusted a little bit, got a little rust right here. Clean this edge and stuff up. It'll do pretty good. Okay, that's pretty much how it's going to fit. Now my trunk gutter is pushed up here. It's still loose. I'll have to clamp it down. I'll put a couple of spot welds here. I'll weld this back, and then I'll probably put a couple spot welds here, and then I'll use seam sealer to cover everything else up. Same thing on this side. I've got a little bigger gap up here at the top, but I'll make it all go away somehow. But I've got everything fit pretty good. This side is turned in a little bit. It's caved in. I'm not sure if I need to get this out a little bit. I'll try, but it doesn't need to go too much farther according to this. This side is turned out a little bit too, but it's flatter right here, and this side has more rust through on it. There's a couple of pinholes in it, so it doesn't have anywhere near the rigidity that the other one side does. So I've got a rust converter sprayed on everything except for where my welds are going to be. I'm going to try to use my spot welder to spot weld this in. So I'm going to get the taillight panel sat in there and get it lined up, get everything kind of clamped, and start spot welding. Okay, I'm clamped in place. I'm going to spot weld across here first, and I've got a couple of screws in the top to hold it back where it needs to be, and I'll move the trunk gutters back and do them afterwards. But what I've got done is I've both sides of this flange on the new taillight panel are ground down to bare metal. The top of my trunk pan where this is sitting has bare metal on it, and then I ground the bottom of this so that when my spot welder clamps on there, I'm getting good connection. So I'm going to go across here, clamping it in a few areas, and then I'll come back and take care of the top area. Now, I had to use my MIG here because my spot welder wouldn't clamp around without being in the way and couldn't get the pressure I needed on it. So I drilled some holes in the top panel, clamped everything down the best I could, put the MIG on it, and hopefully it's adjusted right. There's some adjustment in this, but I'm hoping I don't have to grind it and move it back any farther. I think it's where it needs to be. I've got my spot welds in here. I've got a couple up here. I've got spot welds all the way across here. And then I've got my spot welds in the channel here and a couple up here. Now I still need to come back with the MIG and clean up my bolt holes and grind those down. But for now, I also got my weather strip channel welded back in up here. So I'm going to clean this up with a wire brush real good before I put weather strip in it. I'll clean it up and I'll prime from here over to keep this clean and try to stop the rust as much as I can. Even though these quarters have to be replaced at some point, I'm going to try to keep them from getting any worse, you know, as much as I can to clean up the area. For one thing, it's going to make the weather strip easier to stick down in there and glue it if I can get it cleaned up and primed. Now I went ahead and cleaned off my back cross rail with a wire brush real quick, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this whole area with some black primer, and just to protect all the bare metal where I've done my welds and stuff like that, clean everything up, make it look a little cleaner. Okay, so there's what it looks like with the primer on it. Cleaned up really well. Now it's not welded right across here like it should be, or on the other side, and it's also not welded right here on either side. Everything else is welded where it should be. Anyway, it cleaned up really well. I'm happy with it. All right, so that took about 5 hours of work to get that done. Now, I could have welded that in the way the factory did it, drilled some holes in the quarter panels, plug welded all that area, but considering whether I keep it or sell it, and I'll probably sell this car when I'm done, if the quarter panels are going to be changed later, then I did somebody a favor. That's not welded because it's structurally, it's fine like it is, but I wanted this to be able to get the quarters off without mangling the new taillight panel. But either way, it's usable like it is, and it will make it a little bit easier to change in the future if someone wants to do that. Now, we're killing the budget. That was another $130. It'll come out of the budget since my buddy had a taillight panel. I got that from him. I'll order him a new one when it shows up. You know, he can have it. So, and my budget, I've got about $1,000 left after getting all the stuff I needed to fix the engine. I'm going to have $1,000 left. I've still got to buy tires, windshield, wire and harness, and a few other little small things. Alternator, spark plugs, oil, radiator. I've got a few things to buy, but it's okay. I'm going to make it happen. And if I go over, I go over. It'll be okay. It's still going to be a heck of a deal when I get done with this. And if I don't have it, about $6,500 in it, and it's going to be a road trip worthy car. Let's hope, because if not, I'm going to need a ride back from Daytona. See you guys next video.